All right, guys, great carrier update there. Right now, we're going to welcome our next live guest. We've got Peter Sand, who is one of the chief analysts over at Xeneta. Peter, thank you for joining us. And we're continuing to talk about kind of the really crazy changes that are going on in long-term rates right now. So thank you for joining us. Give us kind of an overview about where rates are sitting.
Where rates are sitting right now is not a nice place from a shipper's perspective. Obviously, they are still paying top dollar for an appallingly low service, but the trend seems to be changing right now in terms of lower spot market rates, at least for some of the main trades into the North American continent, but certainly also for some change in terms of at least the level of long-term rates being signed right now, which are slightly off from the peaks that we saw earlier in the year. But if you look at what we do at Xeneta all the time, also all valid contracts, which you will perhaps recognize from the Xeneta XSI report, which is always out by the end of the month, you will then know that shippers are still paying more than ever in terms of the capacity and the goods that they're shipping around the globe right now for still service and congestion and problems all across the supply chain that they would very much be without, especially with all the economic headwinds coming in left, right, and center right now. So it's a very challenging market, as I'm sure you focus on every single day, and I'm very pleased to be with you today to explore that further.
And looking into that, there's a lot of questions moving into the second half of the year regarding these rates. Are they going to maintain high, or will these new ships and capacity entering the market force them to go lower? Especially going from Europe to the U.S. You know, we've seen some reroutes. Is there a way this early in the game to predict this rate movement? Will we get some reprieve, or is everybody waiting to see if consumer demand picks up approaching the holidays?
There is tons of factors to look out for, but from our perspective, I think at the end of the day, take a look at what's going on right now, and that's very much a massive shift of containerized imports from the Far East, from the US West Coast into the US East Coast. And that is, of course, also impacting very much the trade that you alluded to here, Thomas, from Europe into US, which is predominantly going through the ports of New York, Savannah, and the likes on the US East Coast. And what we see on those trades right now is definitely some sort of easing, but it's an easing in the base rates. If you look at what we at Xeneta call priority shipment fees, they are higher than ever. And let me assure you what priority shipment fees actually compound. It's urgency surcharges that some shippers, which are perhaps booking a little bit late, which are in a hurry, in a rush, or for some other factor, not capable of, say, convincing their carrier that they should not pay a priority shipment fee. They are paying somewhere between $7,000 and $14,000 on top of an already $10,000 freight rate shipping from Europe into the US East Coast. So it's very much all over the place. But in terms of direction right now, we are seeing an easing. We saw back in April that spike when a lot of shippers really found out, okay, we need to move cargo away from the West Coast. And we saw that crunch, of course, also with volumes still being moved transatlantic at high pace. So that easing is still going on. And I think with the numbers that we had released earlier today in terms of US GDP numbers, which in the way that we, at least everywhere but US normally looks at it, which is a quarterly basis compared to one quarter, say same quarter of last year, which equals to 1.6% up and positive growth still in the US GDP. So all eyes on economic changes, all eyes on personal consumption expenditures, of course, retail sales, inflation, but still, I think we can stay calm. There's not a dramatic slide ahead of us. Shippers will fight for every single inch in their freight rates going forward when they also sign long-term contracts with a shorter duration than they perhaps would otherwise do at a crunch time. So very much heat on and a focus on getting the tenure right, getting also the details right in terms of adding that critical renegotiation clause if you go for anything beyond, say, 90 days.
So, Peter, when we're talking about shippers changing their strategy and having to readjust from West Coast to East Coast, we spoke about this yesterday and earlier in the week with Lorian LaRocco, talking about was there an overcorrection and are shippers now maybe being regretful of their decisions to send so much? Change that over now that we're seeing incredible congestion on the East Coast. You're seeing dwell times of 18, 20 plus days in Savannah. You're seeing times of just getting off your ship at 25 plus days in New York, New Jersey. And that's now causing some shippers to take pause again and saying, okay, we're going to have to redo the strategy all over again. Are you guys seeing the same thing in coming from Europe to the US, where people are now being trepidatious about how much they're sending to the East Coast? And what are the relief valves then if both East Coast is full, West Coast isn't necessarily full, but it's having a tough time right now too?
In all fairness, you can't use regrets for anything good, but review your next contingency plan, review your strategies constantly, and I think everybody is doing that. European exporters predominantly are right now spoiled for choice in the air market. As you know, Sanetta is also covering air freight, and what we can see, especially on that transatlantic air corridor, is that goods are being moved, and they're being moved quite cheaply right now. Of course, due to the fact that much more passengers are now crossing the Atlantic than at any point in time during the COVID years. So the belly capacity, where a lot of goods are moved, is an excellent opportunity to get your goods moving. But of course, that doesn't require everyone. It's not an option for everyone. This is very much an option for urgent goods, for high value goods, and for those that are in absolute need. So what we have seen in terms of, say, alternative strategies for transatlantic cargoes moving into the US is transshipment into to basically get past the main congestion on the key corridors into the US by going via the Great Lakes. And we have also seen the port of Boston opening up for more ships coming in. It's not to be compared with the volumes that could be moved via Virginia, like via port of New York, New Jersey. But in a situation like this, everything is doable. Every stone is turned in terms of getting past by that massive congestion that I'm sure some will see as regrettable in hindsight when moving cargoes from the West Coast to the East Coast. But then again, I mean, there's no solutions to the labor situation on the U.S. West Coast yet, and we have also seen the trucker strikes, at least around Oakland, and Vancouver is not getting any better by the day either. So it's by no means easy to get cargo into North America and US right now. And so I guess that's, at the end of the day, could also be the flip side of the coin, that at least some demand is easing. But I guess it's still no respite for those that have cargoes just waiting offshore and cannot get hold of it. With the upcoming season, peak season, getting closer and closer.
Right, Peter, it's going to be a tricky peak season, I think, again, for a lot of these shippers. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we hope to talk to you guys again soon from Sanetta. Have a great rest of your day.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right, we're going to head it back over to Sydney Edwards. She's got a full look at our top stories on freightwaves.com.